The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Ted Nugent, the American singer-songwriter, hunter, author, and conservative political activist. As a musician, you've sold more than 40 million albums, performed nearly 7,000 live concerts, and carved out a permanent place in rock and roll history. You are also one of America's most outspoken proponents of First and Second Amendment rights, conducting thousands of pro-gun, pro-freedom, and pro-free speech interviews worldwide. You've served continuously on the board of directors of the National Rifle Association since 1995 and have been a bow hunter and outdoor advocate your entire life. Your books, Ted, White, and Blue, The Nugent Manifesto, and Gods, Guns, and Rock and Roll are New York Times bestsellers that explore the virtues of liberty, success, and living the American dream. Ted, welcome to London Real.
You know, Brian, I feel welcome. You forgot to mention that I'm a full-time comedian as well. I make people laugh. I have like a vapor trail of humor and laughter behind me. I have such positive spirit that when you're done with this, you're going to love life even more.
I can't wait, Ted. I can't wait. First of all, I just want to tell everybody that we are streaming now on our brand new digital freedom platform, which is a censorship-free, independent broadcasting system that is of the people, by the people, for the people. I just want everyone now watching us to please share this link via the sidebar to all their social media channels. Please just share it and tell your friends and family to give me and Ted 15 minutes. Ted, I pledge to you and everyone watching us that none of this conversation will be edited, censored, removed, or banned, and that anybody in the world can watch the full version of this episode free at londonreal.tv/Nugent, thanks to the generous donations of over 31,000 people around the world that we affectionately call the London Real Army. For anybody wanting to become a founding member of the Digital Freedom Platform, they can go to freedomplatform.tv/give to donate and fight with us on the front lines to protect our human rights. Here at London Real, we've been a platform for free speech since 2011. And Ted, I'm excited to have you here today. Maybe we kick off and I ask you about censorship. You know, up until 8 weeks ago, I had never been censored in my life. But lately, a lot of the content that I've been putting out has been censored and banned. And I know you're a proponent of the First Amendment. How do you feel about that when it comes to digital spaces? And how do you feel about that in general?
Well, any kind of censorship or overpowering of an individual free man's right to express himself is, I think, universally condemned. Well, it used to be universally condemned. Now we have proponents of censorship, and it's a heartbreaker. You know, I'm 72 years old this year, Brian, and I live in America. I was lucky to be born here where the founding fathers established self-evident truth that we have the right to express ourselves freely. And the First Amendment, whether you have one in your country or not, the guitar player will try to explain it to you, that a free man, which we're all free in our heart and soul, whether we're victims of tyrants or despots or emperors or kings. I really hate all those power-abusing punks. But anyhow, the average human being wakes up in the morning and they know they should be unencumbered in expressing themselves. And the beautiful thing about the United States Constitution, Bill of Rights, First Amendment, is that it protects harsh speech that is offensive. It's not to protect comfortable speech and welcome speech. It's about protecting defiance. I think the entire American dream, which, dare I say, I embody. I didn't invent the middle finger, Brian, but I perfected it at the age of 7. You know in your heart and soul that you have these God-given individual rights that are clearly and unambiguously outlined in the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I, too, before Donald Trump was elected in 2016, I was with the great man, the defiant man, the status quo crushing man, which was overdue in America, God bless him. I've always been a status quo crusher myself. I between 20 million and 36 million Facebookers. I had more than Beyonce because I actually have content to my First Amendment. And right after this great man, this defiant man, this status quo crushing, we the people shit kicker was elected, the hippies and the communists and the punks at high tech knocked me down from a high of 36 million, and they've kept it and controlled it at just around 3.5 million. And even that is censored when I'll put a poem about freedom. I don't even have to tell you what the poem might be about. I just did a poem about freedom, and I put a picture of Dirty Harry, and they censored it because Clint Eastwood never said that. Nobody said Clint Eastwood ever said it. This is Dirty Harry. It's a character, you dirtbag, and it's about his status quo defying and his righteousness. And the poem looked like it went with an image of Dirty Harry. But that's how stupid these people are. And anybody that would attempt to muzzle another human being is at the very least stupid, but worse, they're power abusers. They've somehow accumulated this power because they certainly don't have the authority. I think you and I have the authority to express ourselves. And if our expression, yelling fire in a crowded theater, for example, causes harm to our fellow man, then you go after the abuser of speech. But not if it just ruffles feathers. A guy the other day said, Nugent ruffles feathers. No, I don't. I pluck them. So I'm a free guy, and I know that my thoughts are well constructed based on the evidence and the historical evidence that I've examined, and where certain conduct has oppressed people, slaughtered people, been guilty of genocide. So I fight against that bad and ugly to maximize the good. And I'm just a guitar player, but there's a lot of guys across America that are just like me that won't take any crap. And that's why Donald Trump is president.
Yeah, well, it seems like we have a fourth branch of government, and it's technology companies, and they hide behind this fact that I'm a private company and you're not following my community policy. And then they subjectively interpret that as they wish, and they kill freedom of speech because it's in this digital space. And no longer do we go down to the community center or the local saloon and speak. Now we kind of have to use these digital platforms. And I mean, over here, we're fighting to say, look, these are public utilities. They're going to have to respect the law of the land. And whether it's Article 10 of the European Convention that says freedom of speech or it's the First Amendment, man, I think it's time now. And Trump came out the other day against Twitter and said, wait a second, what are you doing? You know, you're telling me, some guy in Silicon Valley is telling me that I can't speak. It's gone too far, I think.
Well, Brian, let me help you out here. How old are you, Brian?
I'm 49.
Okay, you respect your elders. I'll be 72 this year.
Okay.
And I've got a lot of water under that bridge. In fact, I've built bridges and broke bridges and destroyed bridges, and I've swam across raging rapids without a bridge. And you respect your elders when I tell you that that's why I love Donald Trump. I can tell in our short experience together here, just in a matter of minutes, that the reason you're censored is the same reason I'm censored, and the same reason President Trump is censored. And I think anybody who finds others controlling them is because already you've impressed me that you not only get it, but you speak truth, logic, common sense. Not your truth. I think self-evident truth. Even at the tender age of 49, you realize that you have an obligation first to yourself to be honest, examine the occasions in your life, the evidence in your life, study history the best that you can, identify where mistreatment and power abuse and corruption and criminality have destroyed cultures. And sounds to me like my buddy Brian over there in jolly old England is fighting against those actions and misdeeds so that we can maximize the good while we're fighting to reduce and ultimately eliminate the bad and the ugly. We'll never eliminate it, but boy, we're working on it. So I salute you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And do not forget, we just randomly went in my barn this morning. I'm going to do a live stream with England. I love England. I miss the milk. I had great bird hunting up in the borders, a beautiful red stag up in Inverness, and the greatest rock and roll audiences. I mean, I'm a lucky Detroit guitar player. But what you see behind me are just a partial accumulation of thousands and thousands of military and law enforcement coins first responder badges, that they hear me talk. These are brave, heroic people. They hear me stand up for self-evident truth. And just now I got this beautiful letter from a commando of the United States Marine Corps. He gave me a flag that was flown over a war zone where his buddies died fighting for freedom and the Constitution. So when I speak, it's not just some smart-ass guitar player, though it's partially a smart-ass guitar player. But the reason I'm a smart-ass is because great, great people, families with terminally ill children come to me since the 1960s because they hear what I say and they see how I live. And they go, my little daughter is 7 and she won't make it to her 8th birthday. And she wants to go hunting with Uncle Ted. I can't imagine how I ever qualified for that. But when I speak, it's not my personal point of view. It's an accumulation of heart and soul, sincerity, and experiences by people tuned into the world around them. And these military and law enforcement and first responder patches behind me are just a tiny percentage example of how the greatest people in the world communicate with me every day. That's why I'm like this. That's why I celebrate these things and fight for them. I'm on the side of law and order, not looters and terrorists. So my confidence cup runneth over.
And you're a big proponent of having a constructive debate, right? You're a big proponent of trading ideas and coming up through, with different back and forth so we can kind of even...
I seek it.
You do? Okay. Well, why is that so important? You know, I had a guest on the other day that said when you hear a challenging idea, a dissenting voice, it forces you to actually almost reformulate your own opinion that you might have just assumed you understood, but actually you actually understand yourself better when someone challenges you. Do you think that's true?
Oh, absolutely. So again, remember, this is not my first interview. I started doing this in 1963, 1964 at the advent of FM radio, rock and roll radio in America because of my Amboy Dukes, my rock and roll jet stream. So I've always had conflicting points. But when I was that young, I didn't really have any knowledge. I was a mushy-brained teenager. In fact, I wasn't even a teenager yet. So what I've done is I've been clean and sober all my life. I will not poison my sacred temple. I want to be cocked, locked, and ready to rock the Glock, Doc. I want to absorb. When I jam with B.B. King, I want to sponge his majesty. When I jam with Billy Gibbons and I get on stage with Aerosmith, and when I jam with the greatest gods of thunder of music in the world, clean and sober helps you learn their spirit, their touch, their vision, their dream, their beliefs, their adventure, their defiance, their love, their emotion. And so when I speak, I think I exude that accumulation of information. And remember, the first half of my life, everything was contentious because I carried a gun and I ate venison, and the hippies didn't like either of those things. But I didn't attack them. I don't know if you've ever witnessed my Pierce Morgan. Boy, there's a limey I fixed.
Yes, I've seen it.
My interviews with Pierce Morgan, but he did everything he could possibly do with the entire investigative team of CNN. They tried to get me, and I ate their family tree and shit sawdust in their face. Because if you're going to fuck with Ted Nugent about facts and evidence and history, I will crush you, but I'll remain positive and friendly throughout.
You always do it with a smile, Ted, and I appreciate that. We kind of walked into this fight over here with censorship, but we're just trying to put out all sorts of different ideas so people can make their own decisions. But honestly, whenever we mention the coronavirus, the vaccines, or anything that is potentially controversial, it gets shut down. And yet I literally bump onto people in the streets of London. First of all, they shake my hand because they're not standing 6 feet away from me. And second of all, they say, Brian, how come we're not allowed to hear someone's point of view? They're treating us like toddlers, and it's insulting. And we also don't think we're being told the whole story from our media and from our governments. So we really need you to do this, Brian. And it's weird. Now I'm in the middle of this free speech movement. You know, I grew up, it's in my DNA because I'm American, but to actually see it falling away and seeing that people really need it, I don't know, it's been fascinating to witness, Ted, I'll be honest.
Well, I bring you positive spirit and just a tsunami of goodwill, decency, rugged individualism, entrepreneur, risk-taking. I'm involved with people of every imaginable walk of life every day. I was on the phone with Colonel Alan West, who had a terrible motorcycle accident recently near our hometown in Texas. And here's a heroic military hero who just happens to be black. Nobody cares what color anybody is in my world. We don't see anything through the prism of color or creed or ethnicity. We always judge the content of character and the conduct of positive spirit and empathy and, compassion and caring and generosity, all that controversial stuff. So when I speak, I'm pretty cocky. In fact, I'm very cocky, but my cockiness comes from genuflecting at the altar of every imaginable point of view and opinion. I listen to them all. They try to play devil's advocate with me. And of course, if you disagree with me, you would be on the side of the devil. And so what I've always done in my life in the world of rock and roll, where everybody's stoned, everybody hates guns, everybody thinks I murdered Bambi. I mean, how much LSD do you have to eat to reduce living, breathing, precious creatures to the level of a cartoon? So that's the essence of the argument against Ted Nugent all these years. And I try to help them. I try to hold their hand and explain to them how indecent it is to be against self-defense, the Second Amendment, the gun on my belt for 70 years, to be against the reverential, respected use of God's renewable wildlife resources to feed, clothe, shelter, maintain wildlife habitat where quality air, soil, and water is the only source that it can come from. And that's what hunters and fishermen and trappers have always paid for and demanded and regulated based on sound science. And so to be attacked for the perfection of self-defense and the perfection of conservation has always dazzled me. So they don't have a prayer, so they have to abandon any attempt to debate me. And I'd be more than happy to continue to friendly and gentlemanly explain to them that deer are venison, and you have to eat the surplus every year to make room for next year's spawns. Duh. And so they get, instead of learning that science that they happen to get from the author of Wango Tango, they viciously attack me and claim I'm a racist and that I rape children. I mean, they've literally said these things. I have a Ted Nugent Camp for Kids children's charity for 31 years, where families from all across America bring their young sons and daughters to get the Ted Nugent clean and sober, be the best that you can be, aim small, miss small, archery, Zen, the marksmanship, safe gun handling, conservation. The attacks I endure, you can see I'm not breaking my smile. I think it's pathetic and sad, but I know I'm right. I know they're obsessed with hate and they protect their ignorance. So I know I'm on course, and the people that I surround myself with are just such wonderful, wonderful human beings. And I experience it in London when I'm there, and France and Spain and Belgium and Germany, and no matter where I go, just the nicest, friendliest, loving, open-minded people. Some might not agree with me, but they don't have to hate me because I eat venison and carry a gun. So this is a fascinating time, and I think it's coming to a real ugly peak right now with the looting and the rioting and the cultural suicide that's going on here in America, especially. So I keep a positive attitude, and I just keep fighting for goodwill, decency, positive energy and spirit, and tolerance for all points of view, unless it hurts others. So I'm a simple man, and that's I'm so happy to be able to express that reality that is alive and well here in America. Great, great people, hardworking people.
And Ted, you've been defending your points of view since the 60s, like you said. Has it become materially different in the last, say, 10 years? Do you find it's harder, or there's more political correctness, or the digital media space makes it different?
Well, as you experienced, Brian, people recognize you on the streets of London, as you expressed a moment ago. I could be really spoiled and fooled if I didn't keep an open mind, because everywhere my wife Shemaine and I go, every restaurant, every gas station, every feed mill, every charity event, the love and genuine appreciation for the things I speak up for, particularly the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, conservation, hunters' rights, hunters' duty, environmental stewardship responsibility. If I just embrace those that gush their love and support and thank you everywhere I go, I can be fooled that the world is perfect. But I go to rallies where the protesters, you can smell them before you see them. They're just not good people. It's not a different point of view. They don't want to safeguard their point of view. They want to crush our lifestyle. So the line has never been more defined. The divisiveness is important. And let me put it as simply as a guitar player can. I think there should be a difference between someone who goes into the bank and makes a withdrawal from their account. That would be a good citizen who's doing good banking. Someone who goes in and takes money from your account would be a bank robber. They're both banking, but there's the good banker and then there's the bank robber. It's just like immigration. There's the legal immigrant and then there's the invader. Of course we're divided. I'm divided between good people and habitual criminals and the judges and the prosecutors and the failed court system that have engineered genocidal recidivism. 96%, that's an FBI uniform crime report, 96% of violent crime in America. And by the way, if I was 96% likely to kill a deer with my bow and arrow, I would probably kill a deer with my bow and arrow. That's a pretty high percentage. 96% of violent crime, Brian, are committed by the guys they had in a cage and they let them out to do it again. That's engineered recidivism because the judge knows it, the prosecutor knows it, the parole board knows it, and the social worker knows it, and they still let this child rapist out knowing damn well he's going to rape another child. And then people go, well, it's the guns. It's Ted Nugent's guns that are the problem. So I can't help these people. So I spread truth, logic, common sense, share evidence. And the evidence is available to everybody, but people who have an agenda counter to the evidence try to crush the evidence, and they certainly are good at hiding from the evidence. So what you know is truth, logic, and common sense, and the people that approach you to say, thank you, Brian. Again, my confidence cup runneth over. The greatest people on planet Earth are with me 100%. The arsonists, not so much. The terrorists, not so much. The recidivistic MS-13 gangbangers, no, they hate Ted Nugent, which proves I'm a pretty good guy.
Well, you brought up gun control. Let's talk about it, because I got a lot of people that watch from around the world that aren't just in America. And a lot of times they look at America and they don't understand guns and America and the relationship and protection. And I wanted to ask you, my wife is from Bulgaria, all right? So, it's Eastern Europe, and she traveled with me to Flagstaff, Arizona, where my uncle and aunt live, and they have guns. My grandpa was a cattle rancher in Arizona, and they used to have guns. And she just didn't understand this relationship that Americans had with guns, where it was almost part of their DNA. And I think when outsiders look in, they say, why do you need all the guns? And when Americans look out, they say, because that's what we should have. And how would you explain that to like a European that looks over and says, like in England, we don't have guns and we don't have gun crime, so why don't you do it like us? What do you say to people when they bring that to you, Ted?
Boy, you're talking to the right guy there, Brian. I couldn't be more proud of my American life surrounded by guns. My dad was a U.S. Army drill sergeant of the U.S. Cavalry in World War II, and he taught all his kids the safe handling of guns and the importance of firearms safety, firearms appreciation. And I know you're broadcasting from London right now, which I told your buddy James. By the way, a big salute from the Nugent family to all your people, Brian. Thank you for all the technicians that have put this together. Me, I have Maggie, my daughter's Labrador, and I have Happy Jackson, my Catahoula. Those are my people. And my son Toby, Theodore Tobias Nugent, he was able to set this laptop up because I'm lucky I can type. But anyhow, the point is, if we're talking to my friends in London, did you forget what happened at Concord Bridge? Really? So the punk ass king, the tyrant, power abusing prick king, thought he would come and control these new citizens who came to a new land to get out from underneath the tyrant punk ass king. And when you sent your punks to take our guns, we shot you right in the face. That's why guns are cool. And when people break into homes that are unleashed on society by these engineered recidivistic maggots in our court system, across the board, anyone who is unarmed and helpless, they all get raped, tortured, and murdered. How can you ever allow your loved ones to be unarmed and helpless? Unarmed and helpless, somebody might want to write this down. Unarmed and helpless is unarmed and helpless. What a tragic, irresponsible, self-inflicted, suicidal failure, allowing yourself to be unarmed and helpless. Conversely, in those homesteads here in the great United States of America, where our founding fathers knew that the king was a punk, and gave the finger to the king and said, you don't get to have the arms. Free individual people get to keep and bear arms, not you punk-ass king. The Gladiator isn't a fictional movie. The Patriot isn't a fictional movie. Braveheart isn't a fictional movie. Power-abusing king, punk, emperor tyrants, they got to keep and bear arms. And if they wanted your wife, if they wanted your daughter, if they wanted your firewood, if they wanted your eggs, they'd come and take them because you're unarmed and helpless and they can do damn well what they please. Are you kidding me that anybody who would ask why we love guns, have they ever heard the term Adolf Hitler? How about Idi Amin? I find this, if ever there is an indicator of how feeble, how self-inflicted, dependent, and helpless people are, is when they think they don't need a fire extinguisher, a spare tire, or a gun. I find it absolutely condemnable that a father of a family would allow himself to be so irresponsible and incapable of defending their family to be unarmed and helpless. So here's a little tip for everybody. I've never been unarmed and helpless since I graduated from high school. And even throughout high school, I had guns when I wanted them. And by the way, Brian, I don't know if you've heard, but I'm the Motor City Madman. I wrote Wango Tango, and I actually meant it. I'm a crazy son of a bitch, but I'm crazy tuned in. I'm unleashed, I'm uninhibited, but I'm responsible. I'm conscientious, I'm courteous, I'm considerate, I'm tuned in, and I'm armed. Whenever I toured in England, I was armed. I had a pistol in my belt. Wherever I've been, whenever you've ever seen me, I have a gun on me. Unarmed and helpless is a welcome mat for the evil amongst us to do whatever they damn well please. And those of you that allow that, have a nice day. But if you think you're going to limit Ted Nugent's access to firepower to defend my precious gift of life and to defend my wife and my family and my grandchildren, fuck you. You're not going to take jack shit away from me. And if you want to play Concord Bridge, we'll be glad to meet you there all over again, assholes.
Ted, let me ask you a question. Do you think it works for some cultures? Like, do you think the UK staying gun-free is maybe the right thing for the UK? Or do you think we're missing something and we're kidding ourselves and in the long run, it's a bad idea?
Well, I don't have to think anything, Brian. I'm not aware of all the terrorist incidents or the slaughters that have taken place in Scotland and England and France and Germany and Finland. I'm aware of a lot of them. I'm not aware of all of them. I don't have to be aware of all of them. But when another man looks at you in the eye and go, I've decided you will be unarmed and helpless. No, you just shut up and obey. I've made that decision. I'm not going to be there to protect you, but I have decided you can't protect yourself. Let me put it in terms of those that accept that. I don't speak many languages, but I speak that language, Brian, and I'm going to speak the language of people who accept control by others. Bah, 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 you bunch of soulless sheep. Shame on you.
Understood. So we don't have that right, but we don't know any better. And we haven't necessarily been put in a situation. You mentioned some of these terrorist incidents, and I know you've gone through a lot of the mass shootings in America. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, but I think you came to the conclusion that if people were allowed to hold the guns that they even had with concealed permits, that some of these would have gone in a different way. You believe that having guns, more guns in those situations could have prevented those. Am I right?
And again, I'm not just pulling the stuff out of my ass, Brian. I've been a sworn sheriff deputy in Lake County, Michigan since 1983. I've conducted federal raids with the U.S. Marshals and the FBI and the ATF and the Texas Rangers. I've kicked down doors of child rapists at 3 a.m. and screwed my pistol in their ear. The judge let that child rapist out. We had to go get him. I mean, I could get really emotional with you right now, but I'll try to hold my ground. I have studied this stuff. I have studied Columbine, the time frame, the caliber, the manufacture of the arms. I've studied Sandy Hook. I studied Parkland. I studied the Orlando Club. I've studied that horrible event. Wasn't it Paris, France, where the guys came in with AK-47s? Wait a second. Brian, wait a second. Guys raided a concert in Paris, France with Kalashnikov machine guns. Those are banned, aren't they? I think shooting people at concerts, I think that's been banned. Are you kidding me? How'd that law work? How about in Finland with that, on that island, that park? How'd that work? How about that guy that killed all those kids up in Scotland? How'd that work? Are you kidding me? So I studied this, and there's no question that my rant a moment ago is not an unfounded rant. Everything I've said has inescapable evidence to support everything I've said. When you're unarmed and helpless, evil people will find you, and there's not a damn thing you can do to stop them. How can that be acceptable to my fellow man who I know they have an instinct to protect themselves? I know they want to protect their family. I know they want to facilitate good over evil. Without a gun, I'm waiting for someone to tell me how you do that. How do you do that? Now, you're correct. In those jurisdictions where there are really absolutely vulgar gun control, literally forcing good people to be unarmed and helpless. And on way too many occasions, those people have died. And they've probably been raped and tortured in the process. And I know thousands of examples where this happens to be true. So I believe that all my friends in England, I know these people. They're good people. My friends in Sweden and everywhere I go, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and I know these people. I would trust them with a gun. And if they committed evil crime without a gun or with a gun, how about we put them in a cage and never let them out again? Because if you're capable of hurting another human, you shouldn't be able to go shopping with my family. If you stab and miss an artery, you can't get out to try again. You understand? Attempted murder. He shot at the guy. What, are you going to let him out and maybe practice a little bit more? See, this is the kind of stuff that dazzles me about my fellow man. My band, my crew, my management, my sons, my daughters, my wife, Shemaine, my sister, Kathy's on her way here right now to have a big old barbecue. We're having haunch venison. And they're all bringing their guns, and we go to the range and we shoot. We wear hearing protection and eye protection. And we have little challenges shooting at steel plates and bullseyes and even human silhouette targets. And it's nothing but positive. First of all, it's an incredible sport. It's an incredible challenge. Aim small, miss small. And when you do that, I know that when my sister goes home to her northern home and she's there alone with her dogs, nobody's going to hurt my sister for one reason and one reason only. She can protect herself. There are not only people that don't believe their lives are worth protecting, they're on a jihad to deny us from protecting ourselves. I give you the National Rifle Association of America, the most important civil rights organization in the history of the world, demanding we have the civil right of self-defense. You know, Brian, I never went to college. I was too busy learning stuff. And I have yet to meet an individual anywhere who could tell me the benefits of being unarmed and helpless, because I have all the evidence that those that are the victims every time. I'm not buying it. I'm a free man. I'm independent. And don't tread on me isn't just a cute phrase. I'm in charge of my life. And if I feel it's threatened by you, I will cut you in half.
What's it like? What's it like to be in law?
Do you feel the love?
Yeah, I love it. I love talking to you, Ted. I appreciate your honesty a lot. What's it like to be in law enforcement? And like you said, kick down a door at 3 a.m. for a child rapist, screw your gun in his ear and watch him walk and watch criminals walk. I mean, you know, it's not like you're quoting me statistics. You feel it, you've seen it. And I mean, what's that like emotionally?
I'll tell you, Brian, you know, I wasn't with Lewis and Clark, and I wasn't at Iwo Jima, and I wasn't at the Alamo. But my emotional mountaintop, I would never compare myself to those hero Marines on Iwo Jima. I'm just giving examples of outrageous, trying times. When I get off stage with my band, and I because I'm clean and sober, I'm like a radar. My whole life is like a purple-rimmed dick. It doesn't miss anything. It loves the stimuli. It seeks stimuli. It cherishes stimuli. So I'm a real touchy guy, literally, and I hurt easy, and I respond easy because I really care. But the emotion of that positive, I'm referencing this because it's so universally, gloriously positive, but it is emotion. When I get off stage, I play the song and I finish the Stranglehold solo, when I finish the lyrics of Great White Buffalo, reminiscing the manifest destiny, both literal and figurative, I'm spent. I'm a puddle of sweat and emotion. I'm spent positively. We get done with these federal raids. You're on the cusp of crying, like when you bury your mother. You're about to burst. Because first of all, you went into the fire. These are the most evil people in the world, and they got guns because they don't go to the store to get the guns. Just like the guys in England, they don't go to the store to get the guns. They just get guns. The guys in Paris with the Kalashnikovs, they didn't buy those in France. Bad guys will have weapons. Universal truism. When you're done, you know that number one, you made a dent in evil, and multiple victims will not be victims because you stop these guys. And you handcuffed him and took him away to a cage, at least for a while. You feel so good about what you did, but you can't be scared when you kick the door down, or your tactics will take a hit. You understand? You just have to be samurai. It's a moment of samurai. I'm Bruce Lee for at least a moment. Level of awareness, situational awareness, defensive capabilities. The safety's off. The finger's on the trigger. You've made the leap to take a life. You're already there. Even though I didn't take a life, that leap of emotion is so volatile. You sit around with the other commandos and you're having coffee at the IHOP at 10 a.m. after 12 hours of raids, and you kind of just sit there quiet, processing that you could have and probably should have died. So I've been to the mountaintop of positive emotion and celebration of the human experience, music, universal communication, a unification, celebrating this art, the pulse, the spirit of the music that isn't just my music, it's the music of them over all these lifetime of performing, that I've absorbed their spirit and their preferences and learned from the audiences. The taking on evil, I was going to say it's impossible to describe, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job. You're hurt inside and you're tired because you were prepared for the most intense conduct of a human being, and that is to take a life, to save lives, to neutralize evil, minimize, reduce, eliminate incremental evil, to save the good. I think I'm expressing it pretty good, but it is a whirlwind. It's out of body. And even as I watch the looters and the rioters savaging people with boards and bricks and hammers and boots, because I've literally handcuffed those types of people, the hair on my arms just never go down. So I think I'm not as equipped as a full-time U.S. Marshal or the heroes of law enforcement. These guys do it full-time. I'm not full-time. I don't do those raids all the time. Boy, do I respect them more and more, because I've been in the lion's jaws. I wasn't just looking at the lion. I wasn't just hugging the lion. I was in his mouth. And it just, by the grace of God, he didn't clamp down on me. So I think I have those resources and peaking emotions to help guide my decision-making in life. And it ends up in my music. That's basically what the song Stranglehold is about. Standing your ground, standing up for what you believe in. The man in the arena, fall down, get up and dust yourself off, never give up. The entrepreneur spirit, the commando warrior spirit that is alive and well in the shopkeeper, in the farmer, in the teacher, in the tech guy. It's in every imaginable pursuit. So I'm not presuming or assuming, I'm sharing. And again, there's zillions of people that are better experienced and smarter than I am, but I pursue experience, and I pursue not just intellect, but pragmatic utilitarian intellect. Car breaks down, do you have the...
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.